All right, Reddit, buckle up, because I've got a story for you that still makes my blood boil a little even years later. This isn't just an I don't work here story, it's an I don't work here and I'm blind, so why are you yelling at me and trying to get me fired kind of story. And yes, it features a classic Karen. So for context, I'm Cameron and I've been visually impaired since I was just 11 years old. Most people would call me legally blind, but honestly, I've never let it define me. I've gone through all the extra classes, the blind life boot camps, the whole 9 yards learning to navigate the world without perfect sight. I'm pretty damn good at it if I do say so myself, independent, capable, and ready for whatever life throws at me. This particular gem of an incident happened during my senior year of high school. I just wrapped up an intensive boot camp session early, so I figured I'd hit up the local grocery store to grab some grub for dinner. I was rocking a blue button-down shirt and khakis, practical, comfortable, and pretty much my go-to for what we called self-advocacy days. Didn't think twice about it. I was in the frozen food aisle, doing my usual careful scan with my cane, letting my guide dog Mikey, a magnificent golden retriever by the way, lead me. I found the bag of chicken patties I was looking for, and as I was about to drop them into my basket, a sharp voice cut through the hum of the freezers. "Excuse me," it said, laced with an immediate air of authority. "Are you just going to stand there all day, or are you actually going to work?" I paused, a slight frown creasing my forehead. I turned, my cane tapping lightly on the tile, and Mikey gave a soft, questioning whine. Standing there was a woman who practically screamed manager material, tall, thin, with a severe, short haircut and a permanent scowl etched onto her face. Yep, a Karen. Her eyes, however, seemed to widen a fraction as she properly registered Mikey and my white cane. "Wait, are you blind?" she asked, a strange, almost accusatory mix of shock and condescension in her tone. "Yes, I am," I replied, trying to keep my voice neutral. I could already tell this wasn't going to be a polite interaction. She looked me up and down, her gaze lingering on my blue button-down and khakis. "Huh, well, I suppose it's good you're wearing decent clothing at least. Though I'd expect a bit more professionalism from an employee, even if you can't," she trailed off. But her meaning was as clear as day, even if you can't see. I blinked, a wave of incredulity washing over me. She thinks I work here, and she's judging my professionalism because I'm blind. A laugh, a slightly exasperated one, escaped me. "Ma'am, I kind of do dress in the dark, you know. Matching colors isn't exactly my top priority, but I'm perfectly capable of picking out clothes that are appropriate. And I'm doing just fine." Karen's face, already stern, hardened further. "I don't find that funny, young man, and frankly, your attitude isn't professional at all. You're supposed to be assisting customers, not making jokes and fumbling with your own shopping." She scoffed, dismissing my explanation with a wave of her hand. Then, before I could even register what was happening, she reached into my basket. My hand was still on the handle, so when she tried to yank it away, I instinctively pulled back hard. There was a sickening clatter as something rolled out of the basket and hit the floor, narrowly missing my foot. Pickles. A large jar of pickles. "Hey, watch it," I snapped, my patience officially worn thin. My cane clattered against the tile as Mikey let out a low growl, clearly sensing my distress and warning her off. Karen's face went crimson, her scowl deepening into a furious glare. "You watch it, young man, you just caused property damage. This is unacceptable. I'll have you fired for this insolence." And that's when it truly clicked. Fired? Oh, she really thought I worked here and that my blindness was just some poor excuse for bad customer service. The sheer absurdity of it almost made me laugh again, but the anger was bubbling too high now. This woman was completely out of line. "Fired?" I shot back, my voice rising, my frustration finally boiling over. "Lady, I don't work here, I'm a customer. And I certainly don't appreciate being manhandled and accused of property damage by a complete stranger who clearly needs a reality check." Karen ignored me completely, her voice escalating into a shrill shriek that echoed off the high ceilings. "Don't you lie to me, I saw you in that uniform. You think you can just come in here, act like a hooligan, and get away with it because you're like that?" The implication hung in the air, thick and ugly, a blatant jab at my disability. My jaw clenched so hard I thought it might crack. "Like what, Karen? Because I'm blind, is that what you mean?" I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, my blood pounding. You want to keep this up, fine. I'm calling the police right now, assault and harassment. How's that for insolence? I pulled out my phone, fumbling a little with the emergency dial, more out of sheer agitation than actual difficulty seeing the screen. That seemed to finally register with her, but it only fueled her rage, not diminished it. She didn't back down. Instead, she started following me as I began to walk away, her voice a relentless torrent of threats and accusations. Mikey was pulling hard on his leash, his whole body tense, trying to get me away from the noise, away from her. I could practically feel his tension radiating back through the harness. You won't get away with this, you hear me? I'll report you to corporate, you'll never work anywhere again, she ranted, dogging my every step. I didn't bother to reply. There was no reasoning with her. I just kept walking, my cane tapping a rapid rhythm against the floor, Mikey leading the way with determined tugs. I abandoned my half-filled basket right there in the aisle. Forget dinner. Forget this store, I just needed out. I haven't stepped foot in that particular grocery store since. I like to think Karen got a rude awakening when management, or maybe even the police, if someone else called them, finally showed up and informed her that not only did I not work there, but her aggressive behavior towards a blind customer was probably going to earn her a lifetime ban. Either way, she certainly didn't ruin my spirit, just my appetite for chicken patties that day.
If you're still watching, you're clearly into this stuff. Go ahead and subscribe. I've got more stories just like these. Now, on to the last one.
You ever have one of those days where the universe just begs you to lose your mind, only to perfectly set up the most satisfying, delicious revenge? Yeah, I had one of those. It was a pretty standard Tuesday afternoon, just after lunch. I was cruising back to the office, minding my own business, when this absolute menace of a driver appeared out of nowhere. Seriously, this guy was a danger to society. Weaving in and out of lanes without signaling, tailgating so close he could probably read what I had for lunch, and just generally driving like the rules of the road were for everyone but him. I was really trying to keep my cool. Deep breaths, you know. But then he practically slammed on his brakes, forcing the car in front of him to swerve and almost causing a three-car pileup. That was it. My polite, professional persona evaporated in a puff of smoke, and I laid on my horn. A long, indignant, "you are an idiot" honk. He didn't even flinch, didn't look in his mirror, didn't seem to care one bit. Just ignored me and, to my absolute horror, signaled to turn into my office parking lot. "Oh, you've got to be kidding me," I muttered, already feeling a migraine brewing. As if that wasn't enough, he then proceeded to pull his obnoxious car right into my designated parking spot. My spot, the one clearly marked with my name. I was fuming, I tell you, steam practically coming out of my ears. My first instinct was to jump out and confront him right there, but I knew I had a full afternoon of important interviews ahead of me. So, biting back every single sarcastic remark I could think of, I swallowed my rage, found another spot a few spaces down, and stormed into the office. As I was trying to settle my nerves and mentally shift gears for the interviews, Brenda, our amazing office manager, poked her head in. She's got a sixth sense for when something's up. "You okay, honey?" "You look like you've seen a ghost," she asked, concerned. I couldn't help but spill the whole ridiculous saga, the road rage, the near miss, the audacity of the parking spot theft. Brenda just gave me that knowing, sympathetic look. "Well, hopefully your afternoon gets better," she said, giving my shoulder a pat before heading off to send in my first candidate. If I'd known what was coming, I probably would have just packed up and gone home. A moment later, Brenda's voice came over the intercom, announcing the next candidate. "Candidate 3, please proceed to my name's office." I took a deep breath, adjusted my professional mask, and mentally prepared to assess this person's qualifications. The door opened and my heart actually did a little flip-flop, not in a good way. It was him, the obnoxious dude, the road rage maniac, the parking spot thief. He stood there, all slick-back hair and a too-bright smile, completely oblivious. My brain struggled for a second, trying to reconcile the infuriating driver with the polished interviewee. Then, a cold dread mixed with a furious, satisfying realization washed over me. "Please have a seat," I managed to say, my voice, thankfully, remaining perfectly level. He settled in, completely unaware of the storm brewing behind my professional facade. We went through the pleasantries, the usual opening questions, but my mind was racing. Could I really let this slide? Would it be unprofessional not to mention it? A decision solidified. I cleared my throat. Mr. Obnoxious Dude's last name, I began, trying to keep my voice even. I believe we've had a rather eventful morning already, wouldn't you say? His fake smile faltered. A tiny flicker of recognition, then confusion, crossed his face. "Oh, I don't believe we've met until now," he said, trying to be charming but failing spectacularly. "Actually," I pressed, leaning forward slightly, "I think we did. Earlier on the road, and then just a few minutes ago in the parking lot, you know, the one where you took my designated spot." His jaw went slack, the color drained from his face, replaced by a deep flush. He tried to backtrack to justify it. "Oh, right, I was in a bit of a rush, you know. And the spot was open, so I just assumed." He trailed off, trying to regain his composure, then launched into a rapid-fire list of his impressive credentials and how much he wanted this job. As if his resume could magically erase him, almost T-boning someone, and then stealing my parking spot. I let him finish, then just stared at him for an uncomfortably long pause. He squirmed. "Mr. Obnoxious Dude's last name," I finally said, my voice quiet but firm. "Based on your behavior this morning, and frankly your clear lack of judgment and respect for others, I don't believe you're a good fit for our company. We value humility and graciousness here, and I just haven't seen any of that from you today." The air went out of him. The look of utter disappointment, of sudden, painful realization on his face was absolutely priceless. He stammered a few apologies, tried to argue, but I simply cut him off. "Thank you for your time. We'll be in touch." As he slowly, defeatedly left the room, Brenda popped her head back in, a knowing smirk playing on her lips. "So, how was our candidate 3? She asked, already guessing. I just shook my head, a small, triumphant smile spreading across my face. "Let's just say he won't be needing that designated parking spot anymore." We shared a quiet, shared laugh. Sometimes the universe just delivers, and it's a beautiful thing. It just goes to show, you never know who you're messing with on the road or whose spot you're stealing. Karma, it turns out, has an office job. You ever just want to grab a quick snack at a gas station and end up in a full-blown "I don't work here, lady" saga? Yeah, well, that happened to my buddy Raj just last week. And believe me, it was a masterclass in petty revenge. So Raj, fresh off a red-eye flight from who knows where, was practically sleepwalking through a gas station somewhere in Texas. My colleague Mike had picked him up from the airport, and they'd stopped for some greasy snacks and a much-needed caffeine hit before heading home. Raj was still a bit jet-lagged, probably dreaming of his bed, when this woman, let's call her Karen, materialized out of nowhere. "Excuse me," she barked, not even a please in her tone. "Where's the diet mango whatever 'tis drink, the one with the green cap?" Raj blinked, slowly turning from the sad-looking hot dog roller. He's a smart guy, Raj, but he was definitely not expecting to be quizzed on gas station inventory. He was just in a t-shirt and jeans, not a uniform in sight, but Karen clearly didn't care about facts. He gently pulled his mask down, trying to be clear. I'm not sure, ma'am," he mumbled, still a little disoriented. "I actually don't work here. I'm just a customer grabbing a snack." He even offered a polite, weary smile. Karen, however, scoffed, her eyes practically rolling out of her head. "Don't give me that. You're clearly working here. Now, are you going to help me find my drink, or do I need to find someone who actually does their job?" Her tone was dripping with disdain, a clear implication that he should be working there, and poorly at that. Mike, who'd been idly sipping his iced coffee nearby, paused, a silent observer in the unfolding drama. This is where Raj's patience, thin from travel, started to fray. He took a deep breath. "Look, ma'am," he said, his voice rising just a touch, "I don't work here. I'm not an employee. I'm literally just off a flight." That's when she went for it. Her face contorted and she spat. "Oh, I see. Too good to help a customer, are we? Maybe you should stick to your own kind of work wherever you came from." Mike's jaw visibly tightened and he clutched his coffee cup a little harder. But Raj, to his credit, didn't flinch. Instead, a serene calm descended upon him, a mischievous glint entering his eyes. He slowly pulled his mask back up, then lowered it just enough for his voice to carry. You know what? You're absolutely right, ma'am. I should help you. Not because I work here, but because someone should help someone who's, shall we say, a little lost. He then turned his head, spotting the actual young shop assistant wiping down the coffee machine. "Excuse me," Raj called out, projecting his voice across the aisle. "Could you please help this lovely lady here? She's having a bit of trouble locating her drink, and I think she might need some extra guidance. She seems to be of an age where things get a bit forgetful, you know." Mike nearly choked on his iced coffee, stifling a laugh that threatened to erupt. Karen's face, already flushed with anger, turned a shade of beet red usually reserved for cartoon characters. Her mouth opened and closed a few times, but no sound came out. The shop assistant, a bewildered teenager, just stared, unsure of what fresh hell he'd walked into. Raj offered a saccharine-sweet smile to Karen, who was now sputtering, utterly defeated. "There you go, ma'am. Hope you find your drink." She let out a frustrated huff, glared daggers at Raj, and then, without another word, spun on her heel and stomped out of the store, empty-handed. Mike finally let out a booming laugh, slapping Raj on the back. "Dude, that was epic. Her face was priceless." Raj just shrugged, a smug grin spreading across his face. "Some people just need a little redirection, you know. Now where are those spicy chips?" We grabbed our stuff, paid, and drove off, leaving Karen and her elusive mango drink to stew in her own entitlement. Sometimes, being calm and witty is way more satisfying than yelling back. And yeah, that chuckle-worthy story definitely beat a nap after that flight.
Click here for another great one, you won't regret it.